Hello, my name is Catherine Rowan, and today my guest is Michelle Atlas. And the topic for this talk is solving your money mystery. So Michelle is a friend and colleague of mine. We've known each other for a while. She empowers deep, intuitive women entrepreneurs to create change they didn't think possible in their relationship to money, their businesses, and themselves. She's part business mentor, part shadow detective, part spiritual guide, and part soul purpose midwife. As someone for whom personal transformation has been of high value, it is the learning and wisdom she's mined from her most difficult experiences that gives her a rare depth and presence. Michelle has supported women entrepreneurs across 11 countries and 3 continents to create sustainable businesses and meaningful lives by sharing the truth of who they are. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me, Catherine. So happy to be here.
Thank you. So today we're going to talk about money archetypes, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
All
And,
the money mystery. So maybe we could start. You could, I know the people who are here have probably mostly downloaded your quiz, but there may be people afterwards who listen to the recording that haven't. So if you could just say a little bit about what a money archetype is, I think that would be helpful to start.
yeah, sure. Well, an archetype, I know we hear the word archetype a lot and we sort of think we know what it means, but when there's a word that's thrown around in personal development a lot. But what an archetype is it's really a pattern of characteristics, gifts and strengths, fears and limitations, just sort of a pattern of power, you could say, that and there are many, many different hundreds of archetypes that exist in the deep collective unconscious. And so you tend to find, though, these particular characteristics tend to go together. So when we talk about money archetypes in this particular system, there are 8 money archetypes. I did not author this particular system, but I've been licensed in it for many, many years and have permission to make the work that I do with it my own. And the money archetypes, again, kind of portray 8 different personality types that with combinations, again, of blind spots and gifts and strengths that tend to go together. So I hope that helps with understanding, what we're dealing with. So when you understand your money archetype or your money archetypal profile, you're going to understand your money personality, and it's extremely illuminating and very powerful when it comes to empowering your relationship to money. It's a very feminine, insight-based approach. It's very different than a lot of the sort of financial strategy and sort of, shoulds and shouldn'ts that we find in a lot of financial advice. It's very different than one size fits all cookie cutter type approach to empowering your relationship to money, which never worked for me. And that's why found this compelling. I found this compelling because I had some breakthroughs, and then I decided to make it a cornerstone to my business.
Could you tell us a little bit more about maybe the journey that you went on, the breakthroughs that you had? Because I think that would be, I would certainly find that interesting.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've had many. So empowering your relationship to money, particularly for deeper, more sensitive, creative women, is a very multi-layered process. And so over a period of, probably 15 or so years, I've had multiple game-changing breakthroughs. And the first one, which was total 100% catalyzed by these money archetypes, was that I had grown up with a very restrictive mother around when it came to desire and money. So she was a no mother, not a yes mother. And so, her response to every desire, I was very visual and very artistic, and I loved beautiful things. And her response to everything that I wanted was, either just a blanket no, or, do I want it, or do I really need it? And so, I couldn't just want something. I couldn't just be drawn to something. So I grew up with a very confused relationship to desire and to what I deserved and had permission for. And I internalized her restrictiveness to kind of mean I didn't deserve anything, like I shouldn't want anything, which of course was really limiting as I grew up. When I became an entrepreneur, I really bumped hard into my own money issues, my own money story. My spending and saving habits were out of balance. What had happened was when she passed, which was quite young, I found myself with great credit and a bunch of credit cards, newly divorced, and nobody there to slap my hand anymore, even verbally. And so I discovered the art of shopping to fill a void, right? And so it was like I had this reactivity that was the opposite of how I grew up with her. I just felt, wow, I'm free. I can just go buy what I want now, and no one's going to judge me and criticize me. And so I began, just buying things, and I would feel this exhilarated sense of love and nurturance when I would buy something beautiful, whether I could afford it or not. So over time, I'd never had debt, but over time I began to accrue debt. And it was a really hard habit to stop because I felt love and nurturance and these beautiful feelings that we all need and want, right? So how do you stop that, right? And it was all connected to purchasing, beautiful things. I struggled for many years with this, trying to change that habit. And I would change it for a while, but it wasn't sustainable. I'd end up, because if I held back, I'd experience the restriction I felt with her. And then the only release valve was to go buy something again. And then I'd feel self-loathing and shame for purchasing something that I was beyond my means. And then I'd restrict myself again. So it was like a vicious cycle, this good girl, bad girl, vicious cycle. And when I became an entrepreneur, I realized I had to heal this. I had to work this through to be successful and, functional as an entrepreneur, be able to make money and save money and allocate money more effectively. So I tried lots of things, read books by money gurus, tried to be like my friends, and tried to, all the things that a person does. But I realized, but nothing was, would work for a little while, but it was not, as I said, not sustainable. And then I bumped into this money archetypal work when I took the quiz myself and I saw my money archetypal profile. I had a profound, really, truly a profound experience. I saw that, I'm a connector celebrity at the top, and then my shadow is ruler. And I realized in an instant that my very nature, my very money nature, and my nature in general is completely different from my mother's. I'm sure my mother was a bookkeeper and an accountant, I'm sure she was an accumulator. And I'm simply not by nature that type. And when I saw that my nature was, really to express through beautiful, things, and I also saw, I had a tremendous amount of understanding when I saw my own profile. And and through that, I realized I had been trying to be her and please her all those years, and it was just a disaster, and it was unconscious. And I had this beautiful experience, profound experience of self-forgiveness when I saw my own nature, my own money nature. It was really a spiritual experience. It was really, a whole body moment, just like a huge release and a great relief, and just a beautiful experience of it, because I had started to become very ashamed and, all kinds of criticisms towards myself. But this huge experience of self-forgiveness. And then the next time I went shopping, it was like a miracle, really. And I'm not the kind of coach that's always talking, just instant transformation, because transformation is multi-layered. But in this case, the very next time I went shopping, when I saw something that was beyond my means that I was drawn to, I had what happened was I sort of was drawn, and then all of a sudden, again, from deep within, I heard very loudly these words, I'm enough. I'm enough. Like I didn't need this thing to be enough. And in that moment, this experience of love and nurturance that previously only came from buying the item welled up within me by aligning with my means, which was to not buy the item. the piece of clothing or whatever it was. It was really profound. I mean, it was like kind of, again, mind blowing. I remember being in this store and I just was filled with those beautiful feelings by not buying it, which was just the answer to a prayer, really. And from that moment on, I had this like inner compass that I could never access before, but it came to life through this experience. And it just really changed, I mean, changed my bank account over a period of time. It radically changed my relationship to money. And that was my first big breakthrough. And then there have been many other powerful stories, but I don't want to take all of our time, but that have happened because again, we keep learning more and more deeply.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really interesting because since I've done the quiz and then had some feedback from you, I mean, I was surprised, I think, initially that my top one was the nurturer. But since we had the conversation about it, I've seen that operating so many times since. It's really raised my awareness
Yes.
of certain places where actually it was even operating, well, subconsciously, really, in that I hadn't really seen what actually was in play. So
Yes.
now I have the power of choice to think, okay, because there are shadow aspects to that nurture as there are with all the types. So I can really see now, okay, what do I want to sort of change or like course correct a little bit? So would that be, I don't know, would that be time for you to talk about the money archetypes, Michelle? Because I know people here have probably done the quiz and
Yeah.
have their main archetypes. So maybe the next step would be to go through them. And then then after that, we can turn off the recording so people can ask their personal questions about their type, or if you have anything else before we turn off the recording, because I know you have a program where you go into all this more deeply as well, so we can have that on the recording. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So, thank you so much. Yeah. So, the deal with the archetypes also is that my personal experience and opinion is that to really change and transform, heal and empower, I'll say, our relationship to money, there are two wings to the bird. And so there's the practical and strategic, which of course we do need to include. But then the piece that's often left out, which these archetypes address so powerfully, is the emotional piece. So we're marrying these two in this archetypal work where now you're dealing with what are the emotions, like Catherine just said, that you don't always know are operating, driving your decisions, driving the way you see money, driving your, even your perceptions of other people, and ultimately having a massive impact on your results. So as I talk through, I'm going to in the service of time, be relatively brief, but I'm going to say a couple of hopefully powerful, very helpful words about each of these money archetypes. And just be aware that we're talking here about kind of a combination of nature and nurture. I think we end up with the archetypes we do partly because of our nature, how we come into this world, who we are when we're, from the get-go. And then also, certainly, we are profoundly influenced by the messaging that we receive from our families, our faith communities, our peers, our teachers, schools. And, we grow up thinking this is just how it is. We think, okay, the way I see it's the way it is, the way that everybody sees it. And it's not true. One of the things I love about this work is when I work with a group with these archetypes, the diversity is just fascinating. Everybody's got their own journey. So I'll dive right in, and I'm going to start with alchemist. So I'll say in this system, and I'll offer you an opportunity if you'd like to meet with me for a little bit more personal, in-depth conversation around your profile, where I can really pinpoint your blind spot if you would like after this. But alchemist, so in your profile, the top three are significant, and the last one, the top three represent your money, conscious money personality. And the last one represents your money shadow or your money blind spot. typically the lead archetype, your very highest score, is in juxtaposition to your very lowest score. So meaning that in this system, your lowest archetype, the gifts of that archetype can bring harmony and strength to the challenges of the lead archetype. And it's a little complex. And so that's why I offer an opportunity for a little bit more clarity and depth privately. So I'll talk about alchemist, and I'm going to speak to it now. If it's your lead archetype or in your top 3, you're going to be influenced by these characteristics, but especially if it's your first. So alchemist is very idealistic and very humanitarian by nature, really passionate typically about doing good for humanity, doing good things for the world. They tend to, everything exists on a continuum, I'll say also. So we've got this really high functioning end of each archetype where the expression is going to be this beautiful gifted zone for that archetype. And then we've got the really dysfunctional end. And that's where you're going to be creating results you don't want. And then we've got everything in between. And most of us move around on that continuum. So these are some of the gifts of alchemists that I'm talking about, this beautiful humanitarian impulse, this kind of, idealism, and also with alchemists, they would tend to be creative and have lots of road less traveled, like out of the box ideas for how to make money for their businesses. And they also have the will to execute those ideas. But on the downside, again, the dysfunctional end, they tend to have a love-hate relationship with money. And so they can't execute these beautiful ideas or have the impact that they're really here to have until they resolve this conflict. Is money good? Is it evil? I meet with people who have a lead archetype of alchemist, and they say, why should money matter anyway? Well, if you said that to a friend, would they be drawn to you? If you said that to a child, would they want to hang out with you? They'd probably go running. Money will do the same thing. If you think money doesn't matter, money will think you don't matter. So it's like, it's a relationship. And I just want to really frame that up front too, that our connection to money is a relationship. How we treat money is how money will treat us. So it's important to resolve this love-hate thing and understand that money can be a source of great good. And that in the hands of an alchemist, it probably will be a source of great good. So I'm going to just move on. And again, because there's so much with each, but I hope that gives you a nice taste of gifts and challenges for if you have a strong alchemist in your profile. Next, I'll go on to Maverick. So in this archetypal system, again, where there are 8 money archetypes, 3 of them are leadership archetypes, and Maverick is one of those. So Maverick is could be a little bit of a flamboyant leader that loves to. So again, on the continuum, the higher functioning expression of Maverick would be a really powerful risk taker who also is not afraid to stand out from the crowd. They might have a great business idea that nobody understands, and they're fine with that. They're going to try it anyway. They're willing to take that risk and stand in their power. They're also wonderful at, very capable of negotiating financially complex deals, financial complexity. They have this potential. They're wonderful mentors. They love bringing other people up and helping other people kind of come into their own leadership. If we go to the dysfunctional side of the continuum with Maverick, we see a person who might be impulsively, almost going after like get rich quick schemes, and creating like wild highs and lows in their life all the time. So there's this, and each of these archetypes has really also a soul lesson. And so for alchemist, again, it was like really resolving this conflict between love and hate with money so they can do the good they're here for. With Maverick, it's creating like a bread and butter, like a basic income stream, and so that they're not at the mercy of these wild highs and lows all the time that wreak havoc with their own life and with maybe their family, if they have a family. So just creating some stability so they can then play in this genius creative zone of theirs where they're going to maybe create something really amazing, but they need some stability as well. Okay, so romantic. Now I'm just want to remind everybody, I'm speaking of these in the lead. So if these are either your lead archetype, meaning your highest score, or in your top 3, like close to the high score. If these, as I go through these, if these are your shadow, it's a different story entirely. And I won't have time to go into what it means if these are a shadow here. But again, I'm happy to, if you want to connect for a little chat about your profile. So the next one I'll talk about is romantic. So if you've got romantic in the lead, or up there, romantic is great at just enjoying life. They have that sort of spirit of joie de vivre, kind of like a yes to life. Let's do it. Let's do the fun thing. Let's go to the expensive restaurant. Let's get the massage. And so they're good for the economy. They're not afraid to spend. They tend to sort of have a spirit of feeling that things will work out. And they're a lot of fun. There's just a lot of playfulness and a spirit of joy in the way that they operate. The challenge, and this is where the soul lesson, I'll say, is that if they don't have enough spirit feeding activity in their life, meaning like something that doesn't cost money but that really feeds them, such as an artistic hobby of some sort, or whatever they love, nature, art, whatever kind of fun passion that just fills their cup. If they are not doing that, they'll be prone to overspending, and maybe getting into debt. And so the soul lesson for the romantic is to make sure that they're feeding their spirit, and not just with things, right? And understanding that they can really live a very fulfilled life that doesn't just involve spending and this sort of thing. Okay. I'm doing great on time. Usually I can't help but talk too much about each one when I go. I've gotten better over the years, it's been an evolution for me, learning how to do this quickly. The next one is celebrity. Celebrity is another of the 3 leadership archetypes in this system. The three leadership archetypes are maverick, celebrity, and ruler. So, excuse me, I'm getting over something here. Celebrity is a different kind of leader than maverick. Each of the leadership archetypes, just like all the archetypes, has a different persona. And celebrity is really this glowing, very kind of shining bright, very visible, looks beautiful, usually loves beautiful things, wears beautiful clothes, might be comfortable on a stage, front and center, really comfortable, I'll say comfortable in their own shine. This is not someone who's afraid to shine bright and this type of thing. So they tend to be that kind of a leader. I think my sense is that, a number of the well-known spiritual leaders and celebrities, probably would score as a celebrity lead archetype. And so they are comfortable with wealth, and they're comfortable spending and making it, saving it, making it and spending it and using it and enjoying it. And they stretch the paradigm on wealth for other people because they say yes to themselves more often than no. So, for the person who has trouble spending on themselves, celebrity is modeling the opposite. They tend to be quite magnetic. They tend to attract five-star experiences of different kinds. They love five-star environments. And so, they're also, kind of a very expansive presence to be around for people who need to learn how to be more generous with themselves. Now, on the other end of the continuum, similar to romantic, but a little bit different, celebrity, when not doing so hot internally, will overspend, and they'll be the ones to spend to fill the void. And again, that's my lead archetype. That's what was happening. It was my second back then. Now it's my lead. So it's what was happening for me. And so the soul lesson for celebrity is to surround themselves with people who appreciate them for their essence, for who they really are, independent of all the beautiful stuff and how they look and how they of appearances. People who just understand them at a soul level and love them for the person that they are. So when celebrity does have a deep need to feel appreciated in a very real sense, and when they do, that's a kind of fulfillment for them, and they don't feel this need to go, constantly experience perks by spending. But if they don't, if a celebrity is in a marriage where the other partner isn't appreciating them, or if they don't feel seen or understood, they're going to probably try to compensate for that with some overspending. It's something they have to watch for. Okay.
So, Michelle, you said
Yeah.
that in your case that there've been that archetype that was the second, that was now the first. So, in your experience, as people address, if we become aware of our archetypes and we start to address some of the shadow aspects, is that possible then that there's sort of like the order of them in terms of what is in the lead would change?
Yes, it can happen. So that's a great question, because what we don't want, someone who was a celebrity who I was coaching once said to me, well, if I grow and will I then not be a celebrity anymore? And I said, it's like, no, you don't want that. You don't want to not be you. It's not about that kind of change. What it is, though, is so I'll just use myself as an example because I happen to be a celebrity also. So for me, what happened was you're going to end up growing and evolving into the strengths and gifts. That's how you're going. So in other words, I am more comfortable in my leadership and in my visibility now. When it was second for me before, and it was when I, like 9-10 years ago, and it was scored much lower than my lead, which was connector. And so I was not as comfortable just being really visible, doing this kind of thing. Being in my leadership, being the leader of my business, and just really stepping out in my own ideas and my own inspiration and creativity. But over the years, I grew into a deeper, into the expression of my deeper truth and a comfort level and a at homeness in it. And then when I took the quiz again after about 9 years, celebrity was at the top. Yeah. And I also have a lot of understanding, of course, about the downside. So I just don't, I monitor that, and most of the time I don't do that. It's just consciousness, right? And so, yeah. And so you're not going to, you will have propensities. It's about consciousness. It's not about perfection. It's not that we completely stop something or we slap our hand every time we notice a dysfunctional expression of the archetype. It's awareness that is very empowering. You begin to make different choices. You can't make different choices if you don't even know what's going on, what's driving you.
Yes, I can see that. So is that the end of the archetypes, or were there some more? I'm not sure.
No, there's a few more. Okay, I'll be quick here. Okay, so there are a few more. So nurture, which a lot of deep, sensitive, intuitive women tend to have, is on the beautiful expression, the functional end of the expression for nurture would be someone who understands, who intuits others' potential, helps them achieve it, loves helping other people, someone who might be a great team leader, somebody that others might like to work for because they're so caring and supportive. On the downside, the dysfunctional side, they will overgive, overdo, overdeliver, undercharge, and end up feeling resentful and like a martyr. And this is often driven by a deeper unconscious belief that they are not enough. So like if we always do too much, no one will ever know that we're not enough, feel that we're not enough. Okay, and so the soul lesson there is to learn how to put yourself first and take better care of yourself, and to sort of have better boundaries. Nurturers tend to have boundary issues. Okay, I'm going to go right on. Connector is all about, if you have connector at the top, it's all about relationships, as you might guess. On the beautiful self-expressive side, connector has fortuitous relationships with other people. So it's good to nurture your relationships, to go, to look to your network for good ideas, for introductions, for, when you go to an event, a live event, or when you have a chance to meet new people, people like connectors and connectors like people. So a lot of good fortune and kind of magical things happen for connectors through others, through relationship. On the downside, they don't like to look at their numbers. They're a bit childlike when it comes to, they don't track their numbers. They don't know how much money they have. They don't know where it is. And so there's this lesson there of, paying more attention and finding fun and interesting ways to track and allocate their money so they can be a little bit a better steward of what they have. Okay, there's just two more. Accumulator is, as you might imagine, is great at saving money. And they're naturally a great steward of their money. They're good at making it. They're good at saving it. They're good at allocating it and tracking it. The challenging side is that a lot of that is fear driven. So they make great bookkeepers and accountants and financial advisors. And on the downside, they could be hoarders and not invest enough in themselves. So where someone like romantic or celebrity might be prone to overspending, accumulator won't spend on anything, might be prone to not spending. And so their lives and their businesses might be very small. They won't invest in a coach. They won't invest in nice clothing or a trip. So life gets very tight, and right. And if they're not conscious, they can squeeze the joy out of their life. Right. I have all kinds of stories of people I've worked with that needed to make some changes in that area. So the soul lesson for accumulator is to use this beautiful natural money acumen to create more ease and expansion and joy, not the opposite. Last one, ruler. That's the third leadership archetype. And ruler is yet another kind of leadership persona from celebrity and maverick. And ruler on the gift zone, in the gift zone, is very innovative. They are lots of natural business acumen. They're just typically very good at building businesses, growing businesses. They're typically successful. And they love, bringing up other people too. They treat people well. They might build an empire. There's someone who's capable of having, a huge organization if they want. On the downside, they're overly identified with their professional accomplishments. And so they might talk, with their spouse even only about business. And if something doesn't go well, they feel like they're not very worthwhile because the business isn't doing so great. Their identity is very tied to business success. And so so they tend to drive themselves into the ground. And so there's a lesson for ruler that they can actually do something that feeds their soul and make money, and that they don't have to work themselves into the ground to be successful. They have a lot of natural ability to make money and be a leader in that way. So there you have it. That's a little touch into each of the archetypes. I hope that was helpful and fun.
Thank you. So I'm wondering if next you'd like to repeat what you said before about offering a session for people.
Yes.
To say about your work or what you're offering.
Sure. So I'm going to grab a couple of links, and if I'm able to put them in the chat, I will. And if not, I'll give them to Catherine to post with this or to get out to you. But I am offering, what's that?
You should be able to put them in the chat.
Yeah, I have to just, I will grab them in a second. I meant to have them handy and I don't, so I'll just get them, but I'll do it. I am not one of these people that can talk and do that at the same time. So I'm offering a 30-minute private, free, time together to really look at your personal profile, help you understand your money blind spots, a little bit more about your shadow. And I'll be able to really pinpoint within a very short time, where there's a lesson and where there may be a block that needs some tweaking and shifting, and to help you really understand the most important area to focus on in your kind of next step. So I'm going to put a link to my calendar. If you'd like one of those, please grab them, grab one. I'm going to offer them for just a certain period of time. There's a block set aside, and I'd love to do that for you. I'm also going to be beginning my 12-week Activate Your Money Flow program, which is my signature, my flagship program. It's a powerful program where we learn how to, we meet weekly. The first 7 people will get a full private session with me, and they'll also get a deck of my wisdom cards, they're like oracle cards. So there's some nice bonuses for early registration. There's an early rate right now, and I'll put that link here as well. But it's a 90-day program. And we do a deep dive we weave between the deep personal internal transformation and practical strategic, how to do a generative enrollment conversation, for example, how to become more visible according to your nature, how to really hone in on what makes your message unique, things like that are practical, but can be very inspiring when you are encouraged to do these things according to your nature and not in some way that feels antithetical to your nature, that feels really aligned with who you are and empowering. And then we also work, deeply with the inner, and we go more deeply into the archetypes, of course. It's a powerful program. This is probably the 5th time that I am teaching it, and I'm teaching it live this time. I had evergreened it, but I really prefer to do it live because I just do my best work live, and I love to be with my clients. So I'll put the link for if you want to take a look at that as well. And if you're drawn to grabbing one of those first 7 spots. But again, please feel free to schedule a time to just chat, and let me grab both of those quickly. And maybe while we go into Q&A, was that what you were thinking next, Catherine?
Yeah, I was thinking that. So we've finished the main content. I will stop the recording, and for anybody listening on recording, they will have those links. And if you are listening to this on YouTube, you click the more information button below for the links.
Yes, and I'm going to just there's the calendar link right there. And you'd be going for a money flow activation session is what that link is for. There are a couple of possible session choices there, but you want the money flow activation session. And then I'm giving you the other link right now as well. And that is for the early rate for the 12-week program. And that is right here. Okay. And I'm sorry that I needed a moment to grab those. It was one of those silly. Okay, there we go. So can everybody see those? I hope you can. Yeah.
Everybody can see those. So they will be accompanying the recording. And if you are listening to the recording and you have not taken the archetype quiz, you can do so on Michelle's website, which is michelleatlas.com. So you can just go there and take the archetype quiz, and then you will get the mail from Michelle, which tells you about your archetypes. Anyway, so thank you very much, Michelle. That was really interesting. And I will turn off the recording now so that those persons can ask their questions. But thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome.